This is where I would come in through. Today I have 10 months clean. 10 months clean. Martha took me to my rehab. She took me far away from here so I wouldn't leave. But I think she knew I wanted it. She said, make sure that you want to go to rehab when you call me because I'll make sure you go. And she wasn't lying. She got me into rehab within a week and I've been clean ever since.
I've been in this field of homelessness, drug addiction for 25 plus years. I got tired staying behind the desk, waiting for families or individuals to come and see me, so I wanted to go out and engage them, meet them where they're at, see how people really do live on the street, in the riverbeds, in the mountains, in the canyons, up in the trees. That's what I wanted to see. And I want to see how I could help them to get a home.
Martha's the real star of the show today. This is her territory. Los Angeles is broken up into 8 service planning areas. Martha's been working the Northeast LA quadrant since almost the beginning, right, Martha? This has been your beat. The number of people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles County alone exceeds the total number in many states across the nation. And so we definitely have our work cut out for us. We are sending teams that are familiar with their local geographies and resources. Homelessness in the deserts of Lancaster looks very different than homelessness in Skid Row, which looks very different than homelessness in Hollywood or on Venice Beach. So she knows all the major encampments, all of the service providers, both, the official LAHSA funded ones and then all of the groups that are providing services on their own, stitching together a quilt of resources to support our clients in a very resource scarce area.
Good morning, Tina.
We're back. So we're here with the LA Homeless Services. We're here to chat with you if there's anything that we can help you out with. We're connecting with Tina next door here. The Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, or LAHSA, performs a lot of functions here in Los Angeles. We receive federal, state, and local funding, and then we distribute it to local service providers across the county. We also have a really strong planning and systems department that looks at best practices for homeless service delivery and makes sure that all of our funded providers are aligned with those best practices to make sure that we're delivering services in an effective and coordinated fashion. We have over 150 outreach workers on the street conducting direct service street outreach across the county. Morning, Michael. How's it going? All right. We're just getting you your ID voucher here. Krishana mentioned that you guys would be able to head down to the DMV on your own, but if you do need any help getting down there, just talk to Martha and we can help you out with that as well.
Oh, I've been homeless since May of 2019. It's my second time being homeless. In 2006, I was homeless for 1 day. This is a nightmare. What I would tell people who have managed to keep a roof over their head or keep shelter at all given times in their life, I would say God bless and you're lucky. And God forbid that anything should happen to any more of us here in this country because it's an epidemic.
The National Low-Income Housing Coalition recently put out a study that showed that in California, there's only 22 affordable units for every 100 extremely low-income households in California. So there's a huge gap in the need there. They've also issued a recent report that shows that you need to work 3 full-time jobs at minimum wage to afford the rent in an average 2-bedroom. So there's just a huge gap in what housing costs and what people are able to afford. That's a tragic statistic that really is scary when you think about where we're going in Los Angeles. We need to be funding more prevention services to keep people in the housing they have. That's renter protection, a right to counsel for folks who are being evicted would be excellent to help keep people in the housing they have and start to slow down the numbers of newly homeless folks who just simply can't afford their rent. Unless we can find solutions for these people, we're going to continue seeing more and more people falling into homelessness.
So I have my tent right here. I think my name's still back there. Let me see. Yeah, look, Mimi. Okay, so this is where I lived. I lived here for 5 years on and off. It was very hard living here, especially like when the rains came and stuff. It's dangerous, it's dark, it's lonely. There's a lot of spots where people could hide and, hurt you if you don't really know these parts,
The shower is right there.
So I decided just to put a shower in here. So I put a curtain here, and cover all this. And I put a bunch of rocks right here, you know? I would bring water from the park or from the apartments in 5-gallon jugs. And I had to drag them up the river wall to shower with clean water.
People who think homelessness is a choice, like, if you only knew what it took to get out of this situation, and the longer you're in it, the harder it becomes, and everything is so much more difficult when you're homeless. If you work and you're homeless and you're sleeping in your car, how much earlier do you have to wake up to go to a gym where you've got your monthly membership, to shower, to change, to shave or put your makeup on, or find a safe place for all of your belongings that you can't take with you that could potentially not be there when you return. And you're doing all of this through the fear of violence, of not knowing maybe where you're gonna sleep tonight, where you're gonna get your next meal. It's so traumatizing. And then to say that this is a choice is just really frustrates me. It is so difficult to get out of homelessness if you're doing everything right, if you're able to maintain your job, if you're working with an outreach team, if you're shooting out the housing applications every day. It still takes people weeks, months, years to get out of it. And then the longer that you're on the street, the more difficult everything becomes, and the more susceptible you are to fall into addiction, to fall into a mental health crisis. And then that can really just set you backwards and undo a lot of progress that you've made. And it's not a choice. Today we're in Elysian Park, where they come every single Wednesday and provide showers to folks experiencing homelessness nearby. And it makes such a difference when someone is able to take a shower, come out feeling clean and refreshed, get a clean pair of clothes. And now we can have conversations where folks really are being able to picture, what are my long-term goals? Where do I see myself in a year, in 5 years from now? And what steps do I need to take today and this week and next month in order to move towards those goals in a way that you can really start to conceptualize what you want your life to look like in the future? It feels like such a basic thing that we all take for granted, but I promise you, if you don't shower for a couple of days, you feel it. You feel different. And then you expand that by a week, a month. If you just don't have access to the showers, it can be so difficult. And so we're really happy to be partnered with Shower of Hope and with the city to bring these services to people who need them.
10 months ago, I gave birth to my daughter. I almost gave birth to her in the tent. Oh my God, being pregnant here was the hardest thing ever. It was the hardest, even bathing was a mission. It was so hard. I was constantly doing things, you know, fixing up my tent, making sure I don't get wet, making sure it wasn't cold. It was really depressing as a woman being out here. I had to stay on my toes. I knew how every leaf sounded when you stepped on it. I knew how the river sounded, you know. If somebody was walking up the wall, I knew. And then right here where it's leveled, this was where my tent was. Right here. I had a big tent, a patio. There's my Christmas tree. Remember I told you that I had a Christmas tree in here? That's it. I had a Christmas tree right here, and I used to sit here and I used to paint. Right here. You know, like when you're a little kid and you go back to your home when you grow up? This was kind of like that. I think that if that baby wouldn't have been born, I probably would still be here. I think I would still be out here, you know?
The benefits to getting somebody off the sidewalk and into housing are obvious for that person experiencing homelessness, but that's really the only way to address the concerns that we're hearing from housed constituents and housed community members to get rid of the encampments that they don't want to see in their communities. The only answer is move people into permanent housing. Criminalization is not the answer. That is not a long-term solution. The amount of money that it costs to do cleanups at homeless encampments is not insignificant. If we were paying somebody's rent in an affordable unit, that would actually save the taxpayers money that's already being spent to keep people on the streets. And we really need to use those funds and those resources to get people into permanent housing as the true sustainable solution to this crisis.
Housing is an opportunity. Housing is something to call your own, somewhere where you go and nobody's kicking you out. You don't have to get up early to leave, to pack up and go. You don't have to worry about the park rangers coming, the police coming and taking all your stuff. It's somewhere where I could just go home, throw my shoes here, throw my shirt there, and I know that when I get home, it's gonna be there.
When we're able to place somebody through one of our housing interventions, we have almost a 95% success rate over the course of 2 years that folks haven't returned to access additional homeless services. That really indicates how successful those permanent housing placements have been.
So now, since I've left the program and I got clean, I have 10 months clean. I just came up on 10 months. As a matter of fact, what's today, the 11th? Today, I have 10 months clean. Clean and sober. I'm on my way to get my new apartment. I already got housing. Thanks to Martha, she linked me to the Mental Health Pacific Clinic. I'm closing my DCFS case in April, and I have a job. I work at Homeboys Industries. I already completed the first portion of my GED, so I'm in school, and hopefully I'll be attending college. It's all thanks to the outreach work that Martha did, you know, for like hounding me down.
This is a very rewarding and blessing job that God has provided for me to have again. He took me out of the darkness, and I would like for them to have the same, a better future for their kids, for themselves. And this is why I do this work. It's very rewarding. If I had money, I would do this for free. It's a blessing to see the outcomes of my clients. They have a lot of respect for me, and I respect them as human beings, because we're all people, and we just need a little help to get us to where we need to get to.
You know what? Whatever problem I have, she advocates for me. She advocates for me. She gives me advice. She's more than a case manager to me. She's like my family. She's family. You know, that's what she grew to be, family. Because not even my own family helped me, but this lady did.
And so this really is a crisis. There isn't enough affordable housing. We're getting people off the streets and back into housing, but just not quickly enough, not at the rate that people are falling into homelessness. So we need everybody in this fight together. We need everybody's support. That goes for the professional outreach workers, the service providers, our elected officials, but also just the general community and the public. So one of the most important things that the public can do to help is support solutions, support housing, support permanent affordable housing, support interim housing in your community, support services that meet the basic needs of people experiencing homelessness, like showers or access to restrooms. Call your elected representative and let them know that you do want these services in your community to help address those public health concerns that you may have. You can volunteer. There's amazing community-based nonprofit organizations doing work in your community every day. Find those organizations and volunteer or donate to them. They need a lot of help and a lot of resources to do this work. And by coming together and looking at solutions, that's the only way that we're going to find ourselves coming out of this crisis.